Phoenix Down Radio is on the air.
Welcome, everybody, to Phoenix Down Radio, episode number 184. I spaced out on it for a split second there. I'm your host, Klauss Nightbringer. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Seyrr Timono. Seyrr, how are you today?
Oh, holding up somehow, which I kind of feel is like how I'm doing every day, so maybe that's just the world we live in now.
Yeah, probably. Oh, and I got to readjust the sizing on this. Give me a second. Vamp for me, Seyrr, vamp. There we go. We're good.
But yeah, it's a nice day. We just had a batch of rain here, but it cleared up, so we've got that kind of nice fresh feeling in the air.
Yeah,
It'll be heating up soon enough, but it's not yet.
We had a little bit of rain today as well, and it is what it is. But you know what? I'm not going to complain too much about it.
Like, you know how no matter how much people have been wanting rain, after a certain amount of the time, they're like, okay, we're kind of done with this now.
Mm-hmm. Are you kind of there right now?
No, it usually takes me about an extra week to get there.
Well, we've had quite a bit of rain here, personally. But we know it's needed. But the thing is, we had so much snow here. Oh, this was like the snowiest winter in recent years. Actually, probably almost, I think it was number one in recorded history, actually.
Dang.
Like
Given how warm a lot of them have been in recent years, like California's been under drought conditions for who knows how long.
We had like 89 inches of snow this season.
Damn.
Yep. So with that comes a lot of floodwaters. We have very high rivers right now. It's gone down over the past week, but it's been a lot of high rivers in the area. There's still some areas that are under flood watches and warnings if they're right by a river. Fortunately, we didn't have any record, crests or anything like that, so there wasn't a lot of property damage due to that. But you still got to be careful, and it's kept the farmers out of the fields a little bit. They're starting to get in, but if there's that much water, there's that much water. You got to be careful.
Yeah. That is one of the big concerns for climate change in general. Not it's going to get hotter, though we certainly were having several years of record-breaking highs every summer. But the stuff is just more chaotic and unpredictable.
Also, for all of our Star Wars fans in the audience, this is the May. We just had Star Wars Day, so we had May the 4th. But I saw a meme. They're saying, they had, May the 4th be with you. They crossed that out. Revenge of the 6th. They crossed that out. And they had a picture of Mando. This is the May. And I loved, and the thing is, I was just mad that I didn't come up with it first.
Yeah. Now, for Simpsons lovers, you still got 2 days until Cinco de Ocho. So look forward to that.
The Ocho. Like from
one of many events that Homer Simpson noted was made for lovers, much like the hobo Oscars.
I must not have watched The Simpsons at that point in time because I do not remember any of that.
It was a throwaway joke where the actual plot of the episode was Ned being mourning and working on getting over the death of his wife.
It wasn't the Stupid Sexy Flanders episode?
No.
Okay. Stupid Sexy
There's more
Flanders.
Than that. Come on, Cinco de Ocho. It's like Arrested Development Cinco de Cuatro.
Well, at least nobody is worried too much about Revenge of the 6th today. So, look, you got May the 4th be with you, and then you got Cinco de Mayo, and then the day after that is Revenge of the 6th.
Also, today is my mom's birthday, so I should probably call her after
Yes, you probably should do that. Happy birthday, Seyrr's mom.
Happy birthday, Mom. There's like an actual thing planned. Summer camps have been a lot lately.
No, I get it. I completely get it.
Anyway.
What else have you been up to since the last episode?
Oh, a little bit of everything. I've kind of reached the point in Final Fantasy XIV in the patch cycle where it's like, oh yeah, there's all this other random stuff I've been meaning to mess around with. So some submersible part crafting, started kicking the Island Sanctuary up into high gear, taking some attempts at Criterion Savage. Finally got most of my Guibers from Unblock or from Shadowbringers.
Okay.
Had a batch of friends who are working on getting those. Just to kind of a little bit of traveling through a bunch of random worlds to look at really cool houses. My God, the stuff some people come up with is just insane. Like in a really good way. I don't know how they. God, there's this one that had like this, like that sort of like cyberpunk like thing where you have like metal gratings and then like a little nature scene within it there. That felt like a sort of thing that would be in like Neo Hong Kong or something like that.
Interesting.
I'll have to get some pictures of it, but I think they made some really good use of the Nier inspired furnishings for that one, which really does work if you want to go for like a modern gritty cyberpunk setting.
Okay.
But yeah, just a lot of the, quite frankly, a lot of the, oh my God, I don't want to deal with trying to make this teacher schedule work again. I am going to go do something else for 5 minutes or 45 minutes.
Or 3 weeks.
I admit nothing. Okay, I'm going to stop 1,000 yards staring for there.
All right. Well, for me, work has been very busy. A lot of stuff going on there that I really can't get into, but it is what it is. But with Cinco de Mayo and everything like that going on, I wanted to try and do something different. So this weekend, if you were here for the pre-show, you probably heard all this too, but it's fun to explain anyway. I tried my hand at making Binging with Babish's version of carnitas. And if you've never had carnitas, it is like so good. It's like refried pork butt.
Yeah. The name literally means little meats, and it's generally described as Mexican cuisine's version of pulled pork.
Yep, which a lot of times you cut it into smaller chunks as you're cooking it in lard, very slow, letting it absorb the flavor, and then it builds up in there. I let it build up a little too far, and it got just a little bit crunchy, so I kind of call it charnitas now.
Oh no!
But
I mean, first time, like
it was my first effort to do it.
I could show you some pretty disastrous first attempts at dishes I've made.
But the flavor was there. The flavor was there. And we cooked it last night, cooled it overnight, brought it out this morning, broke it apart the chunks, and I put it under the broiler for a little bit just to kind of char it, some of the pieces. But then I just put it in a very low oven for a few minutes just to warm it back up. Served it with some really tasty fajita veggies, some homemade tortillas that I didn't make. We bought them from a grocery store that makes fresh tortillas.
Oh man, I love how many grocery stores are stocking local products like that these days.
They actually make them in the store.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool.
That does sound good.
Some guac. My girlfriend added cilantro because that's what you normally would do, but I think it's evil soapweed.
Got it. You've got the gene.
I've got the gene, so I do not get the same enjoyment out of cilantro as the other 98% of the world does.
It's actually like about 1/4 of the population that has that gene, I think. Yeah. Okay. It is surprisingly common.
Interesting.
Yes. Which actually makes it a really useful demonstration for a lot of school things about various genetic traits and stuff linked to them. Just because it's still the minority, but it's common enough that like in a class, you'll have a decent number of people who have it.
Yep. So we did that, and that was a lot of fun. And then tomorrow we are going to see a improv comedy.
Ooh.
Her brother is a part of a educational troupe where they're learning how to do improv. And their final show is tomorrow night, so we're going to be going up to see that. That's going to be kind of fun.
Hopefully they've learned something then.
And then we did a little bit of planning. We're planning our summer vacation. We're going to Cincinnati, of all places. She wants to go see the hippos at the Cincinnati Zoo. So we booked the hotel for Cincinnati, and we're working on getting all our plans set up. So it'll be fun. Really looking forward to that. And she's upstairs right now. She's painting her nails and just hanging out. So
Yeah.
We're gonna get this done as
Give her my
fast as
best, of
possible. I will always do that for you. So, all right, let's go ahead and continue.
Go ahead and give her your best as well.
Yes, please, and I will pass that on, and she will enjoy that as she listens to the podcast when it comes out on Monday.
It's always nice to hear from internet strangers. That's how I feel about things.
And speaking of saying thank you to people and showing appreciation, I want to show our appreciation to our Patreon producers, Nick Nar, Aurori, Ravenheart, and Mika. As always, thank you so much for your support on Patreon. You can join them as well and be a Patreon producer by going to patreon.com/PhoenixDownRadio and take a look at that if you want to support us. But if you don't want to do that, let's just go ahead and jump into the game and community news. Let's start with a little package of games called Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters. There was a article from Push Square that I'm going to be linking. There we go. Written by Liam Croft, saying how the releases on the PS4 and Switch helped to push the sales of the Pixel Remasters over 2 million copies. Now, this is for all of the games, so I'm not sure if they actually sold like 2 million copies of the $75 package that you can buy, or if they sold 2 million of the different games themselves.
Given that it's described as the 6-game bundle sold past, I think it is like the collection. At least from the wording here, though it is a little unclear.
No, if you actually click into the article, they do in the later bits talk about let's see where they said it. Since it's the total sales across the Pixel Remaster series, it is not known how well each individual entry sold.
Got it. It would be interesting to see the breakdown between them if particular ones were more popular than others. I know, especially breakdown by region.
Yeah, Nintendo is they never give out their digital sales, so it could have done a lot better. Because I personally bought it on Switch because these 6 games belong on Nintendo hardware. Am I wrong?
Oh, this is an entire thing of the console wars are long over. Our veterans of it are shell-shocked. I am not relitigating this argument.
But I mean, for those of us who were alive when these were first released, they were all released on Nintendo consoles. 1, 2, 3 on the NES or Famicom, because some of them were only released in Japan. 4, 5, and 6 on the Super NES or the Super Famicom.
I kind of feel like having them on a portable system works, so I would be okay with smartphones as well, but the styling just doesn't feel like it works on a modern, larger TV, especially with like the upscaling, with the weight. Like, there's been no small amount of ink spilled over how the pixel style works a lot better with those old TVs that had kind of that natural anti-aliasing built in. Yeah. So I don't love as much putting it on the newer model. So the portable systems, I feel like, work a lot better for that. But again, that's me being particular about my things.
And that is a legitimate thought because, yeah, if you go with a standard, television, the old CRTs, yeah, you're 100% right. The resolution was so low that the pixels actually looked smoother than what they are when you have a high definition display.
Yep. I have heard it referred to as poor man's anti-aliasing because it's like this is a way that you very much through this lower quality thing get this effect that normally requires specialized code on higher end systems to smooth out those bumps.
Yep. But I'm glad I got them. I still haven't played them yet because I've just been so freaking busy with everything else. They are going with me on my vacation to Cincinnati, though, definitely.
The updates to the remasters have also been really well received. You have those boost modes. The fonts, I know, were a huge issue that people pointed out repeatedly in the original release. Now,
do you know, did the PC and mobile versions get that same update?
That I am not sure about.
Because I know that it was when they released the console versions, those versions had that updated, so you can go between the two fonts if you wanted.
Yeah. As of about 2 weeks ago, just a very brief search, but as of 2 weeks ago, there had been no word if the PC or smartphone versions would be getting those quality of life improvements.
If any of you guys out there listening on the podcast know that information and you want to let us know if we're right or wrong, please feel free to email podcast@phoenixradio.com and let us know so we can be aware that and update you guys on the next show. But yeah, I'm glad to see a little love for Pixel Remaster and getting people to play some of those, fun little classic console games that we had from our youth. Next little bit of information, we're jumping right into Final Fantasy XIV. The Crystalline Conflict Regional Championships are coming soon. If you're listening to this live, you actually have one more day to enter if you have not yet done so. I posted the link in the chat. You have until May 7th, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. PST to enter your 5-man team.
So about 30 hours at the time of this recording.
Yes. But for those of you listening on the podcast or watching the VOD on YouTube, sorry, you are too late at this point. Preliminaries are going to be held June 3rd and 4th, as well as June 10th and the 11th.
So pretty much the first 2 weekends of June.
Yep. The quarterfinals will be held June 17th and 18th. And then the semifinals and finals will be held July 29th in Las Vegas at FanFest. The top 4 teams who are going to be in the semifinals will be invited to FanFest, and they will get airfare and hotel accommodations, as well as a ticket into FanFest to participate in the championships. With the championship team bringing home $22,500 to split amongst the teammates. So if you have a 5-person team, that's $2,500 per person.
I check your math. That's $4,500.
Is it?
Yeah. Like about 20,000 divided by 5 would be 4,000. So it's a little over 4,000.
Okay, hold on. That's okay. You're right. I for some reason I thought it was 2,500, and you didn't even catch me on that when I said it earlier.
Oh, that's because I just wasn't really listening to you earlier.
Okay, so if it was 12,500, that would have been 2,500.
No, yeah. If it was 12,500, that would be 2,500 per. But no, 20. So about 4,500.
$4,500 per person. Thank you for fixing my math.
Yep. Along with a trophy and a special in-game achievement and title.
The semifinalists will get that title as well.
Yes. Title and achievement.
Yep.
Yes.
But only the championship team gets cold hard cash.
But that said, airfare and hotel accommodations to FanFest is not nothing.
No,
free vacation.
Basically, because it's 4 days hotel that they include. So if you think about that, I mean, just to get in the semifinals, that's roughly $8,000, no, $5,000, depending on what the ARV is going to be. But we're not playing Price is Right rules here.
I mean, it's probably defined somewhere in there but God, this is taking me back to 2006, the first Final Fantasy XI fan festival at that Santa Monica Pier, where they had the International Ballista Royale tournament. Ballista being the PvP game in FF11. And it was a kind of grim affair, actually. It was the championship North American team against the championship Japanese team, who was using a new strategy that the North American team just could not crack through. So it was the Japanese team's score ramping up, North American team sitting at 0 throughout, and you could feel the energy drop throughout that entire event.
Well, I mean, it also didn't help things that the Japanese team was playing on Japanese servers, while the US team was having to go through the latency to play on said Japanese servers.
Even with that, I don't know how much it would have helped. I think this is something where they've been through over a decade of more experience with these events, of actually talking to people about PvP, about observing it. So I have no doubt that this is going to be a lot better than
this is going to be amazing. For one, the hardware is going to be just a couple hundred miles away in on the West Coast.
And in general, they're taking that into account.
Yep.
But
as well as they're going to the player base has gotten really good at PvP games.
Also, like, live streaming wasn't really a thing back then, but it's esports live streaming has become such a thing in the intervening time period. People have a lot better idea of how to put these on, how to make something that's going to be fun for the players and engaging for the viewers. So I'm kind of looking forward to it as like a little chance to kind of redeem that. God, I had not this is just something that always comes back to me, just sitting in that, quite frankly, way too cold and unheated tent, and just feeling the mood drop as our team struggled more and more.
Yeah, but I mean, you also have to think,
Oh,
even back in 2016 and 2018 when they had the PvP championships, those tournaments, there was some pretty good matches there too.
yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, the
I
PvP in
just
14 is much better than it was in 11 for one, and I think Crystalline Conflict is a very, very well done and well balanced PvP game.
Yeah, the previous ones were using the Feast and the Fold, which honestly I'm just not as into. Crystalline Conflict, I'm a lot happier about. So
the 5v5 dynamic is actually kind of nice, and
plus a lot. We'll get into this a little bit more later, but also yeah, a lot of the stuff in terms of the actual battlefield dynamics, it hits that balance that I really like.
Yep. Continuing on.
Oh, and I was wondering, it does look like the arena for each round will be randomly chosen,
which is nice. So
that's kind of fun.
Yeah, because I mean, are they going to have to do? Are they going to maybe have? I'm trying to figure out how they're going to do that. Then are they going to invite people into a specific instance on the NA data center? For the finals and such, but
I know for the 2016 and 2018 FanFest, the thing where they had they were using I think they actually did have some specialized servers for some of it, or they were using dev commands and other things to access that.
That's possible too. But now
so maybe something where they determine which one's going to be and then it's like randomly assigned.
But now with data center travel, it's very easy to bring our player data onto any server in the NA data center, even if it is the dev server. So so that's a possibility. Continuing on with Final Fantasy XIV news, the patch 6.4 special site has been updated. Put a link there in the chat for you guys. Patch 6.4.
We talked about that a little bit last episode about the producer live letter for the Dark Throne.
But they've now added we're getting to see information regarding the new raid dungeon, Pandemonium, Anabasos, the new dungeon, the Aether Font, the Unreal Trial, which is going to be Zervan, and then new additions to duty support. So they're telling you to go ahead and continue to check the site as updates are added. Which,
man, that crystalled up polar bear is deeply unsettling.
Yep, and the link to the site is also now in the chat for those of you who are interested in checking that out. Final bit of Final Fantasy XIV news we're going to talk about is a new live letter that is scheduled for May 12th. So I'm going to link that here. It's basically they're just going to be talking about patch 6.4 part 2 and the miscellaneous updates that come about with that. So we're probably looking at anything that they haven't discussed. I bet some of the miscellaneous updates are going to include things like FanFest and new stuff that we can buy and all that good stuff. Telling us, oh, we sold out of all of these really cool things that you could have pre-ordered and you should have done that already. So
maybe other specialty events like that one with the fireworks show they had. We're talking about on the last one.
That would be so cool. I would love to see something like that. And I hope that there's a way that they live stream it at some point so we can kind of experience it. But I mean, it's nowhere near as cool as if you're there in person. But I don't have, $5,000 to take a vacation to Japan right now. So I would like to see it in some way, shape, or form. Please? So yeah. Seyrr, do you want to talk a little bit about this next little piece of Final Fantasy XVI news?
Yeah, we've got a good bit of Final Fantasy XVI news, plenty of official stuff, but the one that's really been dominating the conversation has been the statement that came out of Saudi Arabia's Public Authority for Media. Now, this has been covered in a lot of places, translated on Reset Era. We specifically are drawing from Kotaku's coverage on this because this is one that, again, has been big enough for a number of reasons to bust out of just the usual Final Fantasy sphere.
Yep, and thank you, Isaiah Colbert, for writing this article.
But yeah, Saudi Arabia's Public Authority for Media has declared that Final Fantasy XVI will not be released in Saudi Arabia. They specifically cited, quote, due to the publisher's unwillingness to make the necessary modifications. Now, they are scant on details, which, I mean, is understandable, especially when it is something where you have. I'm trying to say censorship without saying censorship, but it's censorship.
Censorship.
But when you have this type of thing, they often don't necessarily want to draw attention to the specific type of content involved. So it's at this point, while it's not 100% clear what modifications Square Enix was asked and refused to make, the leading speculation involves a same-sex couple within the game. There's been, of course, plenty of speculation about just how explicit the content is, anything from open declaration of a queer character, which previous Final Fantasies have had stuff where there was like maybe hinting or touching on aspects of that, but never something where a character was explicitly stated to be gay, bisexual, other things like that. So I mean, Fang and Vanille were so goddamn obvious. But from the open acknowledgement to suggestions of an outright sex scene or other like direct implication of sexual contact, of romance between two same-sex characters.
But yeah, so, I know that's a huge thing that a lot of Middle Eastern countries are not open about at this point, and they will flat out. I think there's still like, isn't it still punishable by death in some countries?
Yeah, which, like a lot of these other things, often gets used in very selective ways based on who is politically unpopular. There's an entire whole bunch about this. So again, purely speculative, just based on other known information. The leading theory is that it does have to do with acknowledgement of homosexuality, which I kind of hope that's what it is, even though it does make me a little sad that. But I mean, like, that's a known quantity with them anyways.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I think more Final Fantasy 16 for the rest of us.
Yeah, and God, once we roll around to June, I am so happy to talk about queering up the series. I'm allowed to say that.
Queer eye for the Final Fantasy guy?
How many inches of snow were we talking about earlier?
Anyway. Oh my. Also higher.
So in somewhat more official news, Sony has announced that they'll have an official PS5 console bundle that will be going alongside the release of Final Fantasy XVI on June 22nd, 2023. Shout out to Liam Croft at Push Square. Klauss will be tossing the link into the chat as always for those of you who'd like to peruse it.
What's nice about this, the pre-orders are actually live right now. So if you are interested, if you do not have a PS5 yet and you live in the US or the UK, I can provide links for you can, or the page will actually provide links for the UK. You can buy it from PlayStation Direct for, I believe, £540, or you can get it from Best Buy or PlayStation Direct in the US for $560.
Yeah. My understanding is that the supply issues that plague the PlayStation 5 have really eased off recently. So yeah, if you haven't gotten one, and just because of how hard it had been before, this might be a nice incentive to go for that.
Yeah, what's nice, now, I actually saw a PS5 in Walmart.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they are for sale on shelves.
Nature is healing. Now, just to be clear, this is a standard disc-based PS5 system. It does not include any special decals or art. So while it's an official console bundle, it is not a Final Fantasy XVI console.
Nope.
It will be bundled with a download code for Final Fantasy XVI.
Yep, and the box itself has Final Fantasy XVI artwork on it, but the console itself is a bone stock PS5.
So it's not like that Final Fantasy XII PS4 Pro thing they did.
Nope. But on that, I'm going to take over the next one here. Yep. There will be a Final Fantasy XVI themed DualSense controller and a set of PS5 console covers available in Japan. Again, thank you to Liam Croft from Push Square. Like I said, he had a bunch of good information, so I wanted to make sure to cover all of that. So The
Good job, Liam.
yeah.
You really hit pay dirt on a lot of this.
Yeah, Sony is going to be releasing an official Final Fantasy XVI themed PS5 DualSense controller, and it's really nice looking. It comes in jet black and sports a gold pattern on the touchpad and the two handles, as well as there will be a set of black PS5 console covers that feature the Final Fantasy XVI logo and in gold, and like I said, they're black, so it'll definitely change the look of your PlayStation. But unless you're willing to import them from Japan, we're not getting them.
Yeah. I just kind of want to take a moment to, again, thinking about as veteran of the console wars, as like seeing how a lot of the stuff has changed over the years. The idea that you would just have, here are accessory kits you can get for your console to slap the design that you like on it. Like, just the sort of normalization of all this, something that once felt like such a niche hobby. It's kind of nice to see that it's arrived at this point where it's like, yeah, and now you can just have, like, they're commonly available things to accessorize it with. Or like that Tears of the Kingdom Nintendo Switch that several of my friends went ahead and bought the bullet on and then wondered why they had done that.
Well, I mean, if they didn't have an OLED version of the Switch, I mean, this is a great way to jump into it.
At least one of them did.
Well, he just he just loves Link that much, apparently, huh?
I mean, at least one of them was the one who did a Breath of the Wild run where their rule was that Link had to be minimally attired, with whenever possible shirt being off. He got distressingly far.
Wow. Anyway,
some people like twinks. Not my thing, but some people like them.
Well, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I am going to look in to see if there are anything, if these are going to be available to people who want to purchase them, you know, and have them imported in. Like, what is the cost? How can we get that? Will they actually, the companies actually ship them to the US, or are we going to have to go through some sort of forwarding service in order to get them shipped our way? Are we going to have to rely? Are we have to rely on, you know, third parties reselling them on eBay or something like that in order to get a copy of it? I mean, I might pick up those PlayStation covers because they looked really nice. If you go into that article, and the controller is actually pretty nice too. But I usually don't like carrying more than 2 controllers. So I would bet you that there were no prices listed on this in this article either. So I'm not sure what the cost is going to be, but if it's just a standard DualSense,
is really cool though.
It looks really good. But I would bet that that's probably going to be about at least $70. So a little bit of a premium over a standard DualSense, and the covers maybe 60. Rough guess again.
I'll note that in terms of the aesthetic that I like, stuff that's kind of stealth nerd, I tend to like, where it's like, okay, there's a thing where it's like a nice, pretty, and it just looks like, hey, it's this nice, fancy or whatever design, and just like for people in the know, oh, it's because of that. And I've seen that on this controller where it doesn't have the logo, but it does have like these kind of little intricate filigree designs, these little geometric patterns, stuff that's clearly like some sort of summoning circle or something related to the icons. But otherwise, it just looks like, okay, it's this really pretty design. But then if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
That is totally my aesthetic. So right. I like that.
So yeah, that's the Final Fantasy news that we were able to dig up. It's been kind of light when it comes to a lot of other things within Final Fantasy. So I had to have a discussion with Seyrr to figure out what the hell we're going to talk about for our discussion topic today, because, you know, the live letter's not until next week. There hasn't been too much other things going on other than, you know, what we've already discussed here. Yeah. So what are we going to talk about?
We've kind of reached that point in the patch cycle where we've got the pre-patch lull, the Moogle Tombstone event has come out, and it's time for the grind. And, you know, since it's time for that grind, I thought it might be fun to talk about something that really plays with that. That is actually one of the, as far as I'm concerned, funnest and most interesting ways to earn those tombstones, and that a fair number of our viewers have said they still haven't really done much with. So today, I thought it might be fun for those of you who haven't done as much with it to get a little bit of an introduction to PvP. We've got that the big competition coming up.
Yep.
We've got those revamps. This is a really nice time to kind of ease yourself into it, learn a little bit about the basic structure. And PvP is something in this game has gone through a number of revamps, from something that was a lot closer to that original Final Fantasy XI Ballista with the direct, pretty much slugfest or Tweetu, into several different game modes that are a lot more strategic, have a lot of fun dynamics, really capture the class fantasy of a lot of how the jobs play in this really fun way. So today, we're going to be talking about how much fun it is to beat up your friends and your acquaintances and random people you've never met.
All right, so
Phoenix Down Radio does not endorse the cool crime of beating up random people on the street.
just your friends.
Exactly.
All right, so I'm actually do something we haven't done in a while on the podcast. I'm bringing us into the game.
Yeah, this is definitely something where it's a lot nicer to be able to show rather than just tell.
All right.
So podcast listeners, maybe a little less, though. We'll have the VOD up at least for a bit.
Yep. It's going to be on YouTube as well. So if you're listening on the audio podcast and you want to see a little bit more about what we're talking about, we'll try to explain it as best as we can. Or I should say, Seyrr's going to try and explain it as best as he can. I don't do a ton of PvP. I know enough to really screw over all my teammates. Kidding, no, but no, it's fun. I just haven't had time to play it, so I'm gonna let Seyrr kind of take control of this while I kind of, do the thing, push the buttons that he tells me to push.
All right.
And for those of you joining us live, we are on Hyperion. We are in the Wolves Den. So if you want to come out and hang out as the two of us click on striking dummies and push buttons and do the fun things like that.
All right. So yes, for those of you who haven't done it before, there are quests to unlock each of the different 3 modes, and I'll talk briefly about those modes a little bit later on. But the Wolves Den Pier, here at reached from Lower Lenosha's Morbi Dry Docks. If you have any interest, this is going to be a great place to come just to hang out, see a bit what we have to offer, and most importantly, when you're in this area, your actions will be changed to the PvP actions. Because every job has a completely separate PvP kit. Once upon a time, it was the same actions just being done against other players, but it's been revamped so that each job has a kit that still captures that feel, still captures that class fantasy, but oftentimes is a bit different. If you're a red mage, you'll be making use of a mechanic that switches between black and white magic, which adds healing and protective or enfeebling elements to your spells.
And that's all shown by the changing circles of orbs that were going around his character.
Yep. White magic mode, black magic mode. If you're a machinist, you're going to be in between firing off your shots. You're going to be making use of specialty tools that you can occasionally amp up with all sorts of unusual abilities. Each one, it's going to be a lot of the familiar stuff, but again, remixed a little bit, changed around, done it to something that's often a little faster, a little streamlined. In the case of Machinist, after firing off enough shots, they automatically enter an overheated mode rather than the one that you usually have to trigger by hand.
Yep. And for those of you watching on the stream, I currently have the PvP profile up for Bard, so you can see what it kind of looks like for, the class that I play in general, what skills are available for you to utilize and put on your hotbar. It's so much different than the PvE game.
It can be intimidating, but it's actually it follows a lot of regular patterns. I'm hoping to show you that it's really not that scary. But yes, when you do enter here, there'll be that red button with the 2 crossed golden swords, your PvP profile. Klauss is showing it off right now, where it will keep track of your win record in the various modes, as well as, most importantly, your PvP actions. Now, you'll see in Klauss's case, we have a number of different ones. That fourth one on the left side, Final Fantasia, you'll see has those little crossed swords in the upper right. And that means that's your limit break.
Yep.
Everything before that is a button that you can and should put on your bars. there are going to be 5 actions at the end that everyone gets. That's standard issue elixir, recuperate, purify, guard, and sprint. Those are actions that everyone has in PvP. Common actions that act as this really as a supporting base for everything you'll be doing. The ones in between the limit break and those 5 standards, in this case, it's pitch perfect and blast arrow. But Klauss, mind switching to paladin for a moment?
Okay.
All right, and as we see that come up, you've got Atonement, Blade of Faith, Blade of Truth, and Blade of Valor. Anything after that limit break, that's something that you don't need to put on your bar, because a big thing with PvP is actions that transform into other actions. Rather than needing to decide all the time when to activate this status, when to have, you'll just automatically move through various states. Your abilities will change so that you can continue to trigger the button. You'll note at the top, now that Klauss is on Paladin, we've got that Royal Authority combo. And Klauss, if you could hover over the 3 different steps of it.
Yep, we got Fast Blade to start with.
Yep, and so just like for jobs where you have your basic melee or other weapon skill combo, here it's all on a single button that will transform with each step of it. Which, oh my god, I wish they would bring that functionality to PvE.
So
I don't know why I need a separate space for all these
things. What's great is you just have to press the one button.
Yep.
So
yes, Klauss will be pushing just the single button that Royal Authority combo is on, and it goes 1 step, another, and in this case, that last one has a special effect that will be described in the tooltip. So it's not going to necessarily just be physical strikes. There may be stuff with specialty effects, just like in your PvP actions, but it's all put together so you can just do your basic combo. Go ahead. Now, if you would, go ahead and again hover over over Fast Blade, let's say.
Okay.
With PvE, you have all sorts of stuff that has a base potency that will be affected based on your stats, on your level, all sorts of things like that. PvP makes it a lot simpler. No matter what your level is, you're going to have some number of hit points based on your job. Klauss and I are both on Paladin at the moment. We both have 60,000. 60,000. As a bard, it's 51,000.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what level you are, doesn't matter what gear you have, everyone comes in on the same footing. This is a big improvement over earlier systems where if you hadn't already been PvPing, it was often a lot harder to break in because you would be against people with specialty gear that would make them that much stronger.
Yep. I remember those days.
Yep. But here, you've got that Royal Authority combo. That Fast Blade says 3,000 potency. It'll do 3,000 damage. The next one, 4,000 damage. Anything where it gives a potency, it's just directly that amount of damage. You know how much hit point stuff have. You have a good idea of how strong stuff is going to be. Now, again, you're going to want to look over your abilities because each one kind of plays with the class fantasy as mentioned. For Paladin, that idea is a knight that can defend themselves and others, and that can use white magic to heal themselves. And so, looking over the different abilities, you have stuff like Confiteor, which puts a thing on afflicts targets with something that makes you heal when you hit them. Something that encourages the paladin to focus on an enemy, weaken them, and restore their own power as they do that. A number of their abilities, from the Royal Authority combo to Shield Bash to Intervene, their ability that lets them charge in, will be giving Sword Oath stacks. Sword Oath unlocks the Atonement ability, which is a powerful physical strike that again restores those hit points. All of these different things work together so that you might combo a number of different abilities, build up those Sword Oath stacks, and then use those for powerful physical attacks to heal up, which will keep you alive from the people who are wailing on you, because you are effectively a tank role for this. Now, while there are still tank, healer, and DPS, everyone has a much stronger DPS focus. And some of the jobs will have abilities that tend to be that are a little bit surprising. Gunbreaker, for instance, drawing from its Final Fantasy VIII roots, ends up with a draw and junction ability that allows you to draw power from your opponents and gives you specialty abilities based on what type of thing. If you draw from a healer, then your attacks start adding elements that will heal yourself and others. If you draw from a tank, your attacks start putting shields on yourself. I really like that because we're again taking the Gunbreaker, in this case, based off of Final Fantasy VIII Squall, this classic thing of being able to draw power out of your opponent and use that to cast spells, create effects. We're getting that thing here in a bit of a different way from how we would normally see it in PvE. So for those of you who really like a job, this is a fun chance to see a different take on it. For those of you who don't like a job, you might actually find that you have a lot more fun with it in the PvP version. I can tell you for a fact that my friend Spender cannot stand Warrior, had it at like level, like I want to say like something really low, and leveled it to 90 exclusively through PvP. Not because he was trying to get everything to 90, but because he wanted something to do with PvP and was like, wait, the PvP version of Warrior, I actually kind of vibe with.
It's pretty good, actually.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and change to Bard just to show off another one. Because with Bard, you've got...
Hold on a second here. I need to do that, and I need to
So yes, practicing on these dummies, getting the idea of how all your different abilities work together, which bits chain, how work. It's not necessarily going to give you everything because, for instance, that Gunbreaker ability I mentioned has to be used on a living person. So dummy doesn't play as nice with it, but it'll give you a bit more of an idea of how your things work together. So if you have any interest, come on over, spend some time. I see people practicing on these dummies all the time, and they're not looking for, oh, I need to get my rotation exactly perfect. They're just looking for, hey, I want to get an idea of how my abilities work together and how they feel.
And there's actually quite a few people practicing here right now. So
yep, we had someone who was doing a bit of Dragoon work. I see a Sage working on one right there.
It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting. This tends to be a reason like I see people coming in and out of here a lot. Because again, this is not necessarily for the optimizers. This is just get a feel for it. I mean, your actual matches are going to be against people who keep moving around and try to do stuff themselves. So you're never going to be able to do some kind of perfect rotation.
Exactly.
It's like the whole thing where a baseball player who hits about 1/3 of the pitches is actually pretty amazing because they're playing against someone else who is trying to get it past them.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't have the luxury of, oh, we're going to perfect our rotation. So a lot more. So for Bard, since Bard has that thing of a distance fighter who uses abilities to buff the enemy or to buff his allies, so you have... And this is one that I really like. You see this on Bard and Machinist, where it takes a little bit of time for them to fire off their shot, but as they do it, they can actually move around. You get that feel of like, hey, you're kind of aiming and lining up your shot that I actually really like. Those of you who are playing back in Heavensward will remember that Bard and Machinist had an ability that would increase their weapons' power a lot, but turn their attacks into cast time actions where you couldn't move while you were firing it. And that was
Mage.
Yeah, it was roundly disliked. It was removed in later expansions and has not been brought back.
Well, in PvP, it was horrible, though.
Yeah. But this one, where you can still move around, you're moving a little slower. Like, it's captured. But more importantly, it feels a bit like being an archer, like walking around, like drawing back and lining up a shot. But you can still move around a little bit. You're just a little hampered. And in the case of Bard and Machinist, and I don't know if they can see the numbers on yours, but
yeah, they can.
As you get, so a close-up shot ends up being a bit weaker. If you go back, your shots become more powerful. So there's actually an ideal range that really encourages bards to hang back, to try to pick off targets, to stay back a bit from things.
Whereas right now I'm at far range and I'm doing 6,300, or if I get closer, I'm down to 5118. Get closer, I'm at 47.
Yep. So yeah, A lot of those mechanics, again, really encourage that playstyle that sort of fits. With 20 different jobs, it's not hard for them, or 19 is it 19 or 20? Blue
19,
Mage is
I
not a
think.
thing in this, so it is 19. Yes. Sorry,
Yeah,
Blue Mages.
And just FYI, I did have a buff on that gave me a 5% increase. That's why I was doing 6,300 versus 6,000, which is what the potency of the weapon skill is.
Yep, those potencies, very directly observable. You'll have all sorts of stuff that buffs and debuffs. In the actual modes, there are game modes, there are other things that can affect it, but you can reliably know about how much you are going to be doing. In the case of Bard, when you look over their abilities, and Klauss, you can hover over them, you have stuff like Imperial Arrow, which fires off multiple shots and charges up throughout. And your other abilities will be speeding up that recast timer on Imperial Arrow. So as you're firing shots, you're charging up that big one to do a multi-shot attack. Your other abilities give you repertoire. Go ahead and do that now, where instead of your slow charged up shot, you get a very fast instant shot. So again, helping you speed up that process, firing off shots, pinking them with arrows as you build up to this really devastating shot. Same thing with some of your other abilities, which in addition to giving you that repertoire and charging up that Imperial Arrow, give you, in this case, Apex Arrow and Blast Arrow, give you songs, Frontline March and Frontline Forte, that will be boosting, gives a special boost to yourself, but also boosts all of your nearby party members. So for a Bard, in addition to staying back, you want to be hanging out with your friends. It's actually got a pretty decent range on it, but you're doing this stuff to make everyone a little bit stronger. You're being this supportive role. And actually, Klauss, I'm going to party up with you really quickly just to demonstrate.
Okay.
All right, Klauss, go ahead and fire off, or actually, I'll go ahead and do it. Oh, and yes, Klauss has that Frontline Forte and that Frontline March. I'll go ahead and fire off another shot. And he should be gaining those statuses. Yep. And so as I do those things, yep, Klauss is getting those benefits.
Yeah, my powerful shot is up to 6615 now, so it's got a little bit more than 10% potency, yep, added to it.
Klauss didn't do any of his own buffs, but he's still gaining that,
well,
because
actually,
we're able to.
I did, because it's stacked.
Nice.
You actually get 30% and 30% on top of the 30%, which is why it's slightly more than 6,600.
Yes, and culminating in the limit break that I just used, that Final Fantasia, which in this case gives the user some significant buffs, but again also boosts up your allies as well.
Whereas Powerful Shot is now doing 6,930.
So yes, I brought you from 6,000 to just under 7,000 just from stacking up those buffs. So Bard, taking that role thing of ranged attacker that gives strength to their allies. By using these abilities, I've not only increased my damage, but I've increased it for Klauss significantly. If I go ahead and I'll go ahead and change to Paladin.
I'm resetting enmity real quick.
Yep. And it becomes again something where now we're getting up close, we're building up that sword oath, and we're doing those moves where we're healing up.
Yep,
and it's a little bit easier to see it online.
Now I'm gonna work on trying to boost or give the boost so he can get the enhancements.
And my stuff starts doing more damage as well, from 3,000 to 3,300. That finishing strike is doing an extra 500. All these various things. So it's going to be not just the benefits you're getting. So those numbers do act as a starting thing, but it's not going to be perfectly predictable. It's going to be how you work as a team.
And now with his boosts, I'm now healing myself when I hit the striking dummy.
Yep.
So it stacks on all your player members there too.
Yep, that Sacred Claim is anyone landing an attack on the target restores hit points. So it's big for healing me, but it's also helping some of that healing flow out to the rest of the party, fitting with that paladin role of knight who helps heal and support their allies. So yeah, definitely this is one where I recommend going out and trying the dummies, especially partying up with a friend just to see how stuff might work on each other. Sages and scholars have some fabulous zone control abilities. Monks and samurais can deal some incredible damage. Monk has a like 7 punch sequence for their combo ability, with your normal type stuff ending in that Phantom Rush for absurdly high damage. And so you can kind of get that doing a martial arts combo, trying to time stuff so that you can lend that power into your final strike. So you've got your abilities, you've got that. And in general, you're going to have 3 different modes that you work with, each of which gives you a different dynamic. The PV profile gives you the info about them. But Crystalline Conflict is going to be a 5v5 match where you and 4 other people get thrown into one of a number of different arenas. This is what the Feast and the Fold in earlier versions became. Now, part of it is, of course, you have these jobs that are a little bit more balanced to work against each other, but you also have arenas that give you interesting tactical decisions. You have stuff like the Volcanic Heart arena right by an erupting volcano, where bombs periodically fall onto the field, causing massive damage all around, but also leaving behind bomb cores that can increase your strength. You've got Cloud... Was it Cloud 9, I think it is?
Something like
or was
that.
Yeah. Yes, Cloud 9, an aerial battlefield where you have strong winds blowing throughout that will occasionally launch people into the air, causing opportunities for either taking large amounts of damage. So if you can catch an enemy off guard and leave them unable to defend themselves against the windstorm, you can it's something that really encourages making use of that environment.
I mean, the same with the one at the volcano area. If you can freeze somebody in a path of a bomb, and I
do remember stunning someone once at the intersection so they got hit by 2 of them.
Ouch.
And that one was that was the sweetest.
And then you ran up and grabbed the bomb core, didn't you?
No, I did not have time. There was other stuff going on. I had other things to dodge. So for those of you who want the Crystalline Conflict, for those who really want to farm up those tomestones or that Series XP, since we are reaching the end of Series 3, I do love that Link Pearl emote. Very useful for the role players. But so fast matches are typically about 5 minutes long. Overtime is frequent, but also doesn't run super long. And sometimes the match is open. So for those who just want quick matches, who want to get in there, or who like that smaller group, who like a bit more of the individual action making a difference, Crystalline Conflict is going to be a great one for you.
And the queue times for it are pretty good still, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 5-minute matches, and especially this time when they've got lots of people spamming to try to get them, you will never have to wait long. Those
a minute or 2, maybe.
Yeah.
Even when it was slow, I think it was still less than 10-minute wait times.
Yeah, the arenas do rotate out every hour and a half, so you'll still have plenty of time to try out a particular arena and get used to it, and then try something a little bit different. We also do have the Palestra, a somewhat normal Charlene style one that has some speed zones.
I love the speed zones.
It's
fast.
A little bit more of a no frills one, but it also is a kind of nice, bright, open environment. It has this really airy feel to it, and it's kind of like it's not quite your Fox only items Final Destination, but it is something that's lets you focus a little bit more on the dynamics against the team and a little less of the field dynamics.
Personally, if you're looking to just get used to how it works, that is the one to get.
I mean, honestly, I would just jump in there with whatever you get. But
yeah, that's true.
Palestra is going to be your easiest introduction to that. On the opposite end, you do have the newest arena, the Clockwork Castle Town, which features all sorts of clockwork monsters moving throughout and creating all sorts of zones of chaos. You have various gates that you can quickly move between. That compared to some of the other fast movement zones and the other ones, the Clockwork Castletown ones are often a lot less visible, so it's a lot easier to be caught by surprise or to catch someone by surprise.
Yeah, see, I haven't played that one yet,
So yeah, several different styles. Again, because the matches are over so fast, it's you don't get bogged down in any one thing as much. So for those who want something short and easy, who want to maybe have a little less going on with those dynamics there, Crystalline Conflict is a great introduction. It is the newest mode. The jobs have been balanced with it particularly in mind. So again, for those who aren't quite sure, hop into a casual match. It's an easy way to get a feel for it. On the other end of the spectrum, you have Frontline. These are the only one where instead of two sides, you have three different sides all fighting towards for a common goal. Or not a common goal, all fighting for the same thing. The three, of course, in this case, it's using the three star city states. Frontline being used as a way to diplomatically handle disagreements, a more civilized version of war. Like Crystalline Conflict, it has 4 different arenas, but those arenas greatly change not just the environment you work in, but the actual rules of the game. Now, with these larger groups, you're going to tend to want to stay with the group a bit more. People who strike out on their own trying to solo something are frequently roughly punished for it. The exceptions exist, but worry about that once you've gotten a bit more experience in there. But these ones involve a bit more of trying to read the overall ebb and flow of a battle. You have things like Seal Rock, where teams are attempting to capture Allegan nodes and hold onto them, where the longer you hold onto a node, the more points you're able to extract from it. The Borderland Ruins, where it's a matter of, again, capturing camps as well as an occasional all-out melee at the center.
That was the original large-scale PvP.
That was the original. It is also the one that will be going offline for a little while once the next patch starts. Quite frankly, I think it's the least interesting one because it has fewer dynamic elements than a lot of the others. It's oftentimes just a lot of, okay, stick with the group. Maybe you have some smaller groups that are going off, but there's not as much in terms of interesting tactical decisions.
Okay.
That said, for someone who is new, having a little bit of that simpler structure can again give you a chance to get used to some of the dynamics without having to worry as much about, okay, should I be doing something different here?
Now, I haven't played that mode much. And when it first came out, they had 2 versions of it. There was Seize, where you grab the points, and Slaughter, which was the all-out PvP portion of it. Did they get rid of Slaughter?
So I think that was part of the Wolves Den. So like the thing that Crystalline Conflict replaced.
Not the Feast. But there was a version of Frontline of the one at Cartano.
Oh yes, there was.
It was
Borderland Ruins Slaughter. It was a deathmatch mode.
Yep.
So focusing a lot more on
it was strictly PvP. You know, you wanted to get the most kills for your group, and that's how you got the majority of your points, I believe.
Yes, that one is gone.
Okay.
In part because like for stuff where you want to focus on mostly on defeating other players, Crystalline Conflict is a bit of a better fit for that. Something like that for a large scale. You had issues with trying to balance them between each other. So instead of something where everyone's equally good at killing each other, you have stuff where there's different abilities to control the battlefield, to buff. But that Slaughter mode is something that was removed because it didn't fit quite as well with the feel they were trying to get. Mm-hmm. It was very easy to have some jobs that just dominated over others.
Yeah, it was less about tactics and more about how good you are at pushing the buttons to KO the other players.
Yeah. One thing I will mention is that in Frontlines, I believe when you are at your base, you actually can change job freely. So if you're reaching a situation where, hey, there's someone like the other team is shutting down your job hard, or you just want feel like, oh, hey, we could use a little bit more attack on this, or you just feel like, hey, I want to try something else for a bit, you actually can change jobs while you're in the duty.
Which I believe is a relatively new feature. I want to say you were locked into your job when you first signed into that.
Once upon a time, yes.
Yeah, but now I think how it works now is whatever job you queue in as is the job you get the experience on.
Yes, for those of you who are doing this for experience points, because you can change freely, you will just get experience on whatever job you were when you entered. So when I was leveling a bunch of other jobs, I would frequently queue on a different job, come in and change to Bard because I felt comfortable on Bard.
Bard is a lot of fun to play in PvP because it has a lot of movement and it's very free, but it's also very squishy.
Yeah. Try out different jobs. As I said, something that you've never tried before might turn out to be exactly what you love in PvP. But yes, in addition to that, there's a couple other modes. I personally think Ansal Hakir, the Nadam, is the
That's
best
fun
one.
too, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people share my opinion on that, actually. But that's one that is using that Azim step Aura tribes, the fight between them. It's got a different set of things going on that I think lead to a lot more interesting tactical decisions without being bogged down and stuff. I'll save that for another time, or message me, talk to us on our Discord. I am happy to go into depth about my feelings on the different dynamics of the arenas and which ones are best, and why it's not that much of a tragedy that they're taking away Borderland Ruins for a bit. But that's maybe beyond the scope of this show, especially if we want to get out of here before 9.
Well,
by which I mean 9 my time.
Yeah, we definitely want to do that because I don't have that much time, Seyrr. Come on.
Yep. And then, yeah, for those who want something a little bit different, you'll want to take a look at Rival Wings. That one was brought about during Heaven's Word and focuses a bit on the goblin settlements out in the Dravanian hinterlands.
I thought that came out during Stormblood.
Was it? I know it's at least using. I forget when it came out actually now, but it is using the Charlayan goblin settlements as its framing thing. And that one, for those of you who have the brain poison that causes you to really love League of Legends, this is, I mean, I'm being a little mean there, but for those of you who do like that MOBA style, where you have, in this case, Rival Wings. Yeah, Rival Wings features 2 lanes that have automated mammoths moving along them to fight each other or attack the enemy at the other end, and your goal being to push along those to try to help support, take down the enemy's defenses, and eventually capture their base. So that really strong MOBA feel. Where it varies from that, at least from a lot of MOBAs, is that it's really leaning into that goblin element by having goblin mechs as this really big driving force. It's done as a 24 versus 24, 6 teams of 4, where each of those teams of 4 can have one person driving a specialized vehicle. Those of you who remember the Alexander raids, stuff like the Cruise Chaser, Brute Justice. Anyways,
you're welcome,
the
everybody.
Cruise Chaser, the Brute Justice, the Oppressor, those come back as large-scale mechs that you can pilot with specialized ability to attack fortifications, to attack other players. But something that specialized machines that do need support from the other players in terms of gathering fuel tanks and specialty materials out on the field.
Yep. Because each of the mechs has a set of weapons or things that they can do, and each of those is powered by the ceruleum that the rest of your team is gathering out on the battlefield. And you gain ceruleum either by picking it up, or I believe you also get it by defeating mammoths.
Yes. So even though you do have some people who may sort of be the stars of the show, though, if someone driving a mech gets knocked out, it is very easy for you to go ahead and just launch a new one from the base.
Yep.
That said, I've noticed that some people tend to be the ones who prefer to do it. I've never been super comfortable with the mechs. I always like working on foot, so it just works kind of nicely that way. But you'll often end up with these dynamics where there are people who feel more comfortable working with the mechs or working on foot, because again, they're working to support each other. Although you can attack the other players, this is again not necessarily about slaughtering them so much as, for instance, pressuring them away from a resource that you want to grab, defending one of your mechs as it advances down the lane.
And
so
then-
again, like with the Borderland Ruins, where they remove the slaughter mode, it's less about, oh, you just need to beat up other people as much as you can, and more about that strategy, about applying pressure, where it's not necessary. You don't have to defeat another player. You can, but oftentimes just providing enough pressure that they back off and you're able to seize a resource is important. So again, you're kind of leaning on that strategic aspect, on that interplay. That doesn't necessarily mean just who does the most damage. This one does again have two different modes, though one of them, Astragalus, has been made unavailable while they're doing revisions. Unclear when it's going to be back. So for the moment, if you do go for Rival Wings, you'll be playing on Hidden Gorge, which features a railroad system at the center, regularly delivering specialty materials. So in addition to all of the other things going on with the lanes, you have regular opportunities for one team to dominate the center and seize the materials for extra cerulean fuel, for goblin mercenary reinforcements, all sorts of fun stuff like that.
Yep.
So there's lots of stuff going on, lots of different opportunities to make decisions. This one is the mid-length in terms of the battles, in terms of the time, where Frontline is up to 20 minutes at a match and Crystalline Conflict is 5 minutes. Rival Wings clocks in at about 15 minutes. Though most matches do end before that with the capturing of one base or another. They do follow the general thing where once one side starts to get an advantage, it becomes easier to snowball and push that advantage, which is pretty much the preferred thing for PvP these days, because then you don't end up with hour-long slogs where as soon as one side gets an advantage, the other gets a boost to help make it up.
Though there is a boost that is given once the first tower is taken out, then you get access to Brute Justice for the first time.
Yes. But oftentimes it's less about, keeping things equal and more about, let's escalate it. Okay, we've gotten far enough that one of the teams has gotten to this point. It's time to up the power and up the ante and make things more pitched and exciting. Yeah, I mean, like, you don't want stuff where it's trying to even them out all the time, because then no one ever wins and that's boring. But amping up the energy, making it so more powerful stuff is showing up and stuff is moving faster and more powerfully, that's fun. That's exciting. Riding around in Brute Justice and singing the theme song as you do, and having your friends on voice say, Seyrr, can you stop that, please? That is Rival Wings. Oh... So yes, several different modes, from everything from the short and sweet to the large-scale strategic battle. For those, again, who worry that it's more about the opposing and fighting other players, all of the modes really do focus a bit more these days on that making strategic decisions, on being able to read the battlefield, on knowing how to use things. And so you have jobs that may be more healing focused or maybe more defensive focused that still can bring a lot of power to the table. You saw earlier when we were on Bard how those buffing abilities would not just increase the Bard's ability, but give a significant boost to the entire party. We see with Paladin, and I mentioned also with Gunbreaker, with some of the others, how they not only defend themselves, but give the entire team a chance to heal up.
Yep.
So again, for those who really have, this is the job I love everything about it. I love Red Mage as its fancy magic swordsman with all the abilities there, with being able to switch between versatile stuff. And so having that switch to white, switch to black, and how all the different abilities change up. You still get that Black Mage feel, but in a little bit of a different style that is honestly deeply enticing. One thing I love to do is, with the sword combo, switch stances between each bit of it. A little bit silly, but... So yeah, whee! Yeah. So yeah, again, like, happy to discuss this with more. I actually have spent time hammering on the dummies as pretty much every job, mostly because once I realized what was going on, I just started being very curious about how are these built? How do these work? I still consider myself an enthusiastic amateur, but that's one of the things I really like. The old PvP, as mentioned, it was something that really was made for and used by a smaller group. Like once you were in, once you had the higher level gear, the stuff with actual stats that improved in PvP, like you were there, but it was closed off to new. This is something that's accessible to a lot of different people, where you can support in a lot of different ways, where you can pull off. Samurai's got a specialty thing that's just really beautiful to behold. All of the jobs have opportunities to feel like a badass, though in lots of different ways that really work with that whole class identity. So it's just something that I really love. It's something that I think is still an underappreciated part of this game. And especially at a time like this where we've got those Moogle Tombstone events, where we've got the series ending, and so a lot of those fun things like the mounts, the emotes, where all of those things are available. I really want to encourage you to step out of that comfort zone, try it out a little bit. As mentioned, if you come to our Phoenix Down Radio Discord, I am always happy to chat with you about it. It's the librarian in me. I'm happy to share everything I found, other resources. And it's something that I think for a lot of people who would see themselves as, hey, I don't know if I'm a PvPer, this might be the thing that changes your mind. It certainly changed mine.
All right. Thank you very much for doing that, Seyrr. Hope you guys got a little bit out of it. Like I said, it's nice to, jump into a mode that's, very different from what the majority of Final Fantasy games is all about. Being this is an MMO, PvP is something that a lot of the community is interested in, aside from, good storyline and fun mechanics that way. So it is something else for people to jump into and have a good time with.
Weirdly, even though it's such a strong story focusing, and usually PvP doesn't play as nice with that, I can see my character participate. It's where it's like, hey, these are battle exercises. Hey, you have the struggle between the three nations, and it just doesn't feel as mean in a way that a lot of other PvP systems often seem to focus on the hey, fighting against others conflict, and the focus on, hey, tactics, strategy really makes a difference. I think it's just, honestly, as a result of playing this and getting more comfortable with a lot of that type of thing, I think I like team sports in real life now. I don't know how the hell that happened.
You're becoming a team player now?
Like sports, like the physical kind. How the hell did that happen?
Let's not get into that, because that's going to be another existential quandary that we're going to have to dig through.
Yeah, but getting the opportunity to interact in this way where you're working as part of a team, where it's not about dominating others, it is a game. It is about playing the game, about recognizing the strategy, all this other stuff.
And yes, I think Chili has it right, Seyrr. You're having a midlife crisis.
I got that out of the way like a decade ago. I got my teenage angst taken care of when I was 8.
So you're one of those that's going to be early to your own funeral?
Oh no. Also, I do not recommend getting your teenage angst out of the way when you're 8. It turns out to have a lot of other problems.
And on that bombshell, that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like, subscribe, or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or whatever your preferred podcatcher is. And if possible, leave us a rating or review. It does help us to know how we're doing and lets other people find our show. If you really dig the show, you can consider subscribing to us live here at twitch.tv/Phoenix Down Radio, where you can get access to a number of subscriber-only emotes and badges. Or you can go out to patreon.com/Phoenix Down Radio and support us like our benevolent overlord Aurora Fenrir or our Secret of Nevermore Ravenheart. All proceeds go towards growing the show, cover things like hosting costs, allow us to improve and upgrade equipment, or just flat out replace it, right, Seyrr? As well as do fun stuff like contests and giveaways like we've done in the past. And we'll do more in the future. We're still trying to figure out what we want to do for that contest. We never really did. We kind of forgot about that, I think. until just now. We'll try and get something for the summer going for a contest. So we'll look forward to that. Maybe for something around after 6.4, or we may wait till after FanFest now. Maybe there's something really cool coming from that. But whatever it is, any kind of support, whether it's likes, tweets, follows, subs, donations, whatever, we greatly appreciate it because we really like interacting with you guys and the rest of the community. If you want to catch up on our backlog of episodes, you can always go to our website, phoenixstormradio.com. If you have questions, suggestions for the show, or just want to say hi, you can always email us at podcast@phoenixstormradio.com. But if you want to say hi, the best place to do that is our Discord. And you can find that by going to phoenixstormradio.com/discord. That should redirect you to the link to our server. Seyrr, do you have any shout outs?
I'm going to give a shout out to Cecily Strong and Keegan Michael Key because I spent the last week watching Schmicago, the second season of Schmigadoon, and oh my god, if people thought that I was singing all the time before, it has been even worse.
Oh god. Lord help us all.
It's so good!
Well, I'm sure it's hilarious, but...
Oh yeah.
Seyrr singing, that's the problem.
If you like musicals, if you like stuff poking fun at musicals, absolutely worth doing the 7-day trial or even a month subscription for it. So yes, big shout out to them for living rent free in my head for probably another 3 weeks.
And if they listen to the show and hear the shout out, let us know.
Yeah, that would be like super surprising,
right? It'd be
I mean, shout out to everyone in it. Shout out to everyone in it. I love Jane Krakowski. She is the greatest. But yeah, so shout out to them. Shout out again to my mom. Happy birthday. I do actually have things planned. Just today is super busy.
Happy birthday, Mama Seyrr.
Woo!
I don't know how else to really refer to her on this, but I'm sure she understands.
I think she'd be okay with it. She's the type of person where it's like, I have met you. You are now one of my adopted children.
So I haven't met her.
It's a little weird for some of my friends, but
anyway.
But yes, yeah, that's about it at the moment. Like, there's probably other stuff going on, but honestly, I have got myself distracted trying to set up a really good picture with the machinist limit break in PvP. You get to pull out a goddamn sniper rifle.
And I suppose as far as people want to finding you, the best place is the Discord?
The best place is the Discord at this point. I barely use Twitter. It becomes more of a dumpster fire every time. So yeah, join us on the Discord. That's probably going to be for the best.
Yep. And as always, I want to shout out everybody catching us live here at Twitch. We had Aurori, we had Chili, we had Freedom Eagle. Thank you so much for joining us here live. Shout out to you, Seyrr, for putting together the PvP segment for our discussion today. And shout out as always to everybody listening out on the podcast or catching us on the VODs. We really do do this so you guys can have a little bit of entertainment and enjoyment on it. And we just like talking about these things that we love, and we're glad that you enjoy hearing us ramble on incoherently about it quite frequently. So thank you so much for that. Again, I'm probably best found on the Discord. I will respond to direct messages there. If you at me, I'll definitely check it out. But if you have any questions, just jump in there. Anybody from our community will be more than happy to help answer any questions you have, whether it's about gameplay, whether it's lore based, anything in there. Feel free. I mean, we're a great community, and I think we do have a lot of fun. So also I'll throw a shout out to my D&D group. We're having a lot of fun. We're going through 2 different campaigns. So we're going back and forth between a 1st edition campaign, the Temple of Elemental Evil.
Ooh, that's a classic.
It is, and it is dangerous. We're still all like 3rd and 4th level. So we've had a few deaths, but it's a good time. And we also are doing a 3rd edition Slaughter Guard campaign. Ooh. And our DM is custom writing up stuff, and we're finally getting back into that one on our next session, which is going to be in June. And Also, if you play D&D and have never really messed around with miniatures or things like that, there is a website, what is it, eldritchfoundry.com. You can custom design your own characters with different armors and races and classes and things like that.
I know someone who's made use of that. It has a surprising number of options.
Lots of options. If you don't have a 3D printer, they can print your creation for you for like $25, which is not bad for a customized character. If you do have a 3D printer like I do, I just purchased the STL files for $5 per character, and I printed them off. So I made one for my my first edition campaign, as well as one for my third edition campaign, and I've been playing around with that, and it's nice. I really, shout out to that. Not a sponsor, #, sponsor us, but yeah, check that kind of stuff out. I'm having just a ton of fun with it. Getting the new 3D printer, or a larger resin printer that I can print out a lot bigger things. If you see in the background, there's a new dice tower back there that I was able to print off. That's a lot larger scale than the ones I have been able to do in the past. So
fancy.
Love this type of stuff. So and if you want to talk about D&D, we can maybe create a D&D channel or something in the Discord for those who might be interested. Maybe we still want to get more into that old world Final Fantasy one that he came to us about an update, and we just got so busy with it. Perhaps we could run that one-off adventure with that too. So
could be fun.
Could be a lot of fun, a lot of good times. So thank you everybody for joining us, and that's going to go ahead and do it for us. For my co-host Seyrr Timono, I am Klauss and Seyrr, wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care.
Phoenix Down Radio is a production of PhoenixDownRadio.com and Illusion Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. In-game content for Phoenix Down Radio is a copyright of Square Enix. Opening music for Phoenix Down Radio is provided by Guilty Gear Rock You. Check out the Metal Chocobo theme cover and many other music videos at youtube.com/Guilty Gear Rock You. Closing music for this episode is provided by Guitar Wanker 90. Please check out their full version of Matoya's Cave and other rock video game covers at youtube.com/Guitar Wanker 90. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of Phoenix Down Radio and its hosts and do not reflect the views of Square Enix.